Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and on this episode we're walking in Memphis. The topic of this one, CWA Memphis Wrestling from June 30th, 1979, almost 33 years to the date. I'm recording this from when the show initially aired, and that was totally by chance. I did it by a random picker. It ended up working out pretty good because it's kind of cool to see that dichotomy 33 years ago to now. If you haven't watched our shows before, we do everything here on a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is the worst, 5 is the best. And before we get into reviewing the show, if you want to watch the same show I watched, the same exact video, there'll be a link in the description here for the video that I watched to review this. With all that being said, let's jump right into it. We start off with an interview with Sgt Danny Davis, who has the Blonde Bombers, Larry Latham and Wayne Ferris. We'll get more into them in a minute here. Out there, he's got the Waynes, Ken and Buddy Wayne out there with him. And he also has a guy that I don't think I've ever heard of before, and his name is Pete Austin, and he looks like an absolute giant. It could be some of the guys standing next to him were shorter, but he looked very impressive. I don't remember him at all. This is before I was actively watching wrestling. I'm going to be perfectly honest here. I haven't watched a ton of stuff from the 60s or 70s, mostly because a lot of it doesn't exist. A lot of it was destroyed. I have watched some. I have gone back and seen, obviously some of Bruno's work, some of Superstar Billy Graham. A lot of what I've seen from the 70s has been from Florida because I was uniquely interested in Dusty Rhodes and how he was working down there, so I would look for that. I don't remember this Pete Austin gentleman. He may have went on to be something else or something bigger. The video itself, I'm guessing, is a copy of a copy that's had to last 33 years. So it's not the best video quality. You can't make out extreme details on somebody's face. So with that being said, he did look impressive. Sgt Danny Davis is giving himself a cake from going up from private to sergeant, I believe he said, which I don't even know if that's the right progression. It was a nice opening segment, kind of cool what they normally, like what they would normally do in Memphis shows. It went on a little long. Lance Russell keeps trying to get them to go in the ring, which we're going to go here in a second. Sgt Danny Davis, by the way, later goes on to be Nightmare Danny Davis, who also is the guy who started Ohio Valley Wrestling. Coming from that, we end up right into the ring. The Blonde Bombers, Larry Latham and Wayne Ferris, against Jerry Brown and Coco Ware. Not yet Coco Beware. And kind of really young. This was another surprise for me. I didn't realize that Coco was wrestling at this point. I didn't know. I thought he had come in maybe a couple, 2-3 years later, which just goes to show you sometimes you can find some gems on some of these older shows. Wayne Ferris later would become the Honky Tonk Man. He's got his hair dyed blonde here. Larry Latham would become Moondog Spot, which is really cool too because I met the Moondogs when I was a very little kid, probably about 6 or 7 years old, and I used to go to, and I know we're going into a little bit of story time here, I used to go to wrestling at both the Philadelphia Civic Center and the Philadelphia Spectrum. And I want to say it was either before or after because there was I might be muddling up my places here. It was definitely coming off of a WWF show at the Spectrum. I don't know if it was before or after, But my family and I had went into, I believe it was a Ponderosa restaurant. It may have been just one that was themed like a Ponderosa restaurant, which I don't even know if those are still around. But anyway, I had met the Moondogs there. I believe at that time it was Spot and Rex that were there. I used to have a signed picture of them, being that that was almost 40 years ago. I don't know where that went, so really cool. They were really nice, what I can remember of them. They were really nice and really cool. They actually had the headshot, like, not the headshot, but if you've seen the old promo photos, they had it in their suitcase and they were willing to give it to me, which was awesome. They were really cool. That being said, back to the match. We have Wayne Ferris and Larry Latham versus Jerry Bryant, Coco Ware. This was a decent match. It wasn't great. And I mentioned 33 years ago. Actually, this was 43 years ago. That being said, just realizing my dates were off when I was retelling that little bit of a story. Hey, back on track, because I'm going off the rails already here. This was a decent match. I liked it. It was a little bit slower paced at the time. And I've mentioned this, at times it's hard to go back to these. Watching what we've seen now, where you see 17 super kicks in a match, 4 Hooten Karanas, 7 suicide dives, chairs and tables and everything, and going back and watching what professional wrestling used to be. This was a good match, not a great match. The Blonde Bombers pick up the win here. I'm giving this a 3. I thought it was good. It definitely kept my interest, but there was still something, I don't know if even at the time I would have enjoyed this much. Coming off of that, my favorite thing of the show happens coming out of that match. Wayne Ferris decides he's going to join commentary for the rest of the night, which is just amazing. He's really good at it, I'm assuming that's why they allowed him to do that, or asked him to do that, because he's really awesome at doing it. If you watched any of his shoot interviews, the guy is a great talker. And if you watched any of his promos back in the day, the guy is an amazing talker. We get a video from the MidSouth Coliseum next. It is Ken and Buddy Wayne going up against Tommy and Eddie Gilbert. What's interesting about that is we have 2 father and son teams wrestling against each other. This was a cool video. I enjoyed this. There was a little bit in the beginning where about the first 3 or 4 minutes or so, there's no commentary over it. And then Ferris actually says, "Lance Russell, why are you not saying anything? Why have you just let this go on for 5 minutes?" Which kind of is interesting. I didn't think they would ever have the commentary. I just figured, we're going to go to this video and it would be whatever sound we got from the Coliseum. Which begs to make me think, why wouldn't they have commentary over the whole thing? Why would they not talk it up? I don't know. The Gilbert clan picks up the win on this one. This, again, a little bit of an underwhelming match. I'm giving this a 3. I expect a little more. Eddie Gilbert is super young here, and so is Ken Wayne, who would go on to be a nightmare with Danny Davis. It just a little bit underwhelming. I expected better seeing the Gilberts. I know I've seen better matches with them, and both of the Waynes, actually, I've seen better matches from. Not that it was a bad match. It was just okay. Sometimes when you see names, you expect more of them than you do for people you don't know, if that makes sense. Next up, we get a Tommy and Eddie Gilbert interview. Tommy does all of the talking about 19-year-old Eddie and not looking at him like he was a man, but now seeing how he handled himself in that match. That him and Ken are both men now, and the next time they meet up, they're going to be treated as such. Kind of a cool interview, kind of a cool way to put Eddie Gilbert over a little bit. I enjoyed it. Coming off of that, we get Ken Wayne going up against Johnny Starr. Johnny Starr is another name on here that I don't remember. Again, haven't watched much of the 70s. He may have been a little bit towards the end of his career, or he may have been a guy that just never caught on. This was a decent match. They were obviously playing it up like Ken Wayne was a star and Johnny Starr, fittingly, was the nobody. Johnny Starr does pick up the win here out of Ken Wayne being distracted, which brings out Buddy Wayne. Afterwards, they try to attack Johnny Starr, which then brings out the Gilberts to run them off. Pretty good segment here. I'm going to give this one a 4. So far, this was my most enjoyable segment of the show. And I liked how they played it out. It's kind of the old trope that nobody that gets a surprise win over the overly cocky heel. Coming from that, we get an interview with superstar Bill Dundee, which leads to basically it breaks down into Bill Dundee being attacked by Latham and Ferris and Danny Davis. The Waynes come out again, and so does Pete Austin. There's one thing I really enjoyed a lot here, and it's a little attention to detail. As the Blonde Bombers and Davis are attacking Dundee in the ring, the Waynes and Pete Austin block the door to the studio so that he can't be saved. And that little piece of detail made this so much better. It made it so much more enjoyable because it brought a lot of realism in there, and it made it feel like it was a real attack. Because if you were really wanting to attack someone and you didn't want anyone to come interfere, you would do something like that. Overall, an intense segment, a great segment in my opinion. I'm giving this one a 5 off of the segment. It wasn't a match, but it was a nice segment, a nice piece of work here. I enjoyed what they did with that. Then we go to the end of the show, which is a pre-taped interview with Bill Dundee and Jerry Lawler recruiting a third person to go up against the Blonde Bombers and Danny Davis. And that third person, Jackie Fargo. Kind of a little bit sad I didn't get to see Jackie wrestle on this. Very happy that I got to see what it amounts to being a Jackie Fargo promo. There's some really good stuff. It's absolute gold in here. I mean, if you did a Mount Rushmore of Memphis wrestling, these are 3 of the 4 guys, and probably Jerry Jarrett would be the 4th one that you would put on the Mount Rushmore. This is the top of the food chain for anything that's ever been done in Memphis. Dundee, Lawler, and Fargo. This was awesome. Fargo brings up beating Jerry Lawler right there next to him. Talks about if the Blonde Bombers bring a chain, he's got a bigger one. However they want to cheat, he's done it better. This was just awesome. Just 3 legends cutting a promo, sitting on a couch, and probably outdoing 99.9% of promos that you've seen from any time this year. These guys all 3 of them had that it factor. All 3 of them could talk you into a building, which was the goal back in the day. For that video, I'm giving that a 5. Overall for the show, I thought it was a good show, good quality. The first couple matches I didn't like as much as the later stuff in the show, the later segments and match. I'm going to give it a 4. Even with those 2 first matches being kind of not great but good, it was still a very enjoyable show. It was still being able to watch guys like Wayne Ferris, Honky Tonk Man, Larry Latham, Moondog Spot, Coco Ware, Coco Beware later, early in their career, Nightmare Kenny Wayne early in his career, Danny Davis early in his career, Eddie Gilbert as a teenager. That's just awesome. Bill Dundee and Jerry Lawler when they were about hitting their prime, and one of the absolute legends at the time, Jackie Fargo. It makes the show enjoyable. So again, I'm going to give the show overall a 4. I do recommend watching it, even though the quality on the video is not the greatest. With that all being said, I do want to bring up I want to mention something here. By the time you see my next video, Walking in Memphis, we're going to be in the month of July. I teased this a little bit on one of my last videos, but for July, we're teaming up with our a good friend of mine. You've probably seen him mentioned in the comments. I know you've heard me mention him. Matter of fact, there's going to be a link to his channel in the description. The American Samurai, Bucky749. I'm teaming with him and his brother Jeremy for Jeremy's Christmas in July. Now, what that's going to mean, for the month of July, all of my Walking in Memphis videos, all of my It Came From the Network videos, are going to have a Christmas theme to them. I won't say what they are. I won't say what I'm going to... It's still going to be a little bit of a surprise, because what's Christmas without a surprise? I'm really excited that they asked me to do this with them. I think this is going to be awesome. Any way we can bring up a little bit of cheer, especially with the way the world is going right now, any little bit of smile we can put on people's faces. And who doesn't smile when they think of Christmas? I mean, it's Christmas. Everybody loves it. So coming up, stay tuned to that. Christmas in July is about to happen. With all this being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another Walking in Memphis.